You think you own your credit card? Truth is, it owns you. Look around. America doesn't run on cash, it runs on plastic. That morning swipe at Starbucks, not coffee, interest. That late night Amazon buy now spree, not retail therapy, future debt in a cardboard box. Even the hospital bill when it lands on your visa isn't really healthcare. It's a financial sentence dressed up with a magnetic strip. The cruel part is how ordinary it feels. Swipe, sign, forget. No blood, no pain. Just numbers that quietly fatten until the day the statement hits you like a brick. Minimum payment due, late fees stacked, a PR at 25%, and suddenly you're not working for yourself anymore. You're working for Chase, for Citi, for the invisible empire of lenders who know exactly how to keep you hooked. I've seen it in every corner of this country. From the single mom buying groceries on a MasterCard to the six-figure professional carrying 5 cards in their wallet like trophies. Different lives, same leash. The cost isn't just money, it's time. It's years shaved off your freedom, hours of your life auctioned to interest rates. These aren't purchases. They're invisible chains. And that's the truth nobody tells you. Credit cards don't give you freedom. They lease it back to you, with fine print. So let's talk about how the system was built to trap you, why so many smart people fall for it, and most importantly, how you can finally step off the treadmill. I knew a young man once, fresh out of college, degree in hand, confidence high, first job, first apartment, first taste of what he thought was independence. He got his shiny new credit card in the mail, embossed with his name. To him, it felt like a badge of adulthood. He swiped it for everything: Starbucks, dinners out, concert tickets, things that made him feel alive after years of ramen and textbooks. The monthly bill arrived, but the minimum payment looked harmless, like a whisper instead of a scream. What he didn't notice was the fine print, 25% interest. Slowly, silently, every swipe chained him tighter. He wasn't buying lattes. He was borrowing hours of his future life to pay for them. By the time he woke up, he wasn't living free. He was working just to keep the debt collectors at bay. Then there was a woman I met in her 40s. A mother, 2 kids, a good woman. She wasn't chasing lifestyle, she was chasing survival. Groceries, gas, school supplies. Her husband's hours had been cut back, and her paycheck barely stretched. So she leaned on the card, promising herself she'd pay it off next month. But next month, the car broke down. The month after, one of the kids needed braces. Each time she sent in the minimum payment, it felt like she was doing the responsible thing. But the balance never shrank. It grew. Like a weed, strangling her paycheck before it ever reached her hands. She wasn't irresponsible. She was cornered. And the system knew it. Different faces, same trap. Whether it's the young chasing freedom or the parent holding a family together, the story ends the same way. More hours of life sold to the bank. That's the cruel genius of credit cards in America. They don't just take your money, they take your time, your choices, your sense of control. And the question we have to ask is, how did we get here? How did America, the so-called land of opportunity, become a nation living on borrowed time? You know, people often think credit cards were some kind of convenience tool, a little plastic freedom slip. Truth is, they were engineered as a money machine. Here's the cruel trick. Swiping doesn't feel like spending. Handing over cash, yeah, that stings. You see the bills leave your hand, you feel the weight of the exchange. But a swipe? Just a flick of plastic and a little beep. pain-free. That's intentional. The system was built on the science of numbing your awareness. And then there's the dopamine. Buy something new, your brain gives you a quick hit, like a digital pat on the back. For a moment, you feel alive, important, in control. But the high fades, and what comes after? The bill, the guilt, the realization that you traded tomorrow's freedom for today's sugar rush. Debt plays with emotions the way a casino plays with light and sound. Sad, lonely, anxious, swipe it away. But each swipe digs the hole deeper. You spiral. Sadness leads to spending. Spending leads to guilt. Guilt leads to more sadness. And the banks? They just sit back and collect, patient as ever. I've seen this cycle ruin people, good people. A young man buying dinners he couldn't afford to impress dates. A mother swiping for groceries, ashamed, but with no other choice. And me? Yeah, even me, once upon a time standing at a checkout line, convincing myself that $50 on a card wasn't real money. That's how easy it is. That's how seductive it is. Debt isn't just numbers, it's psychology weaponized. Now let's talk numbers, the invisible iron bars. Average APR today, 20 to 25%. If you only pay the minimum balance on a $5,000 debt, you could be chained to that card for decades, paying 2-3 times what you borrowed. That's not an accident, it's design. The minimum payment was created not to help you escape, but to keep you in the cage. And yet, society praises it. Keep a good credit score, they say, as if owing money on time is a badge of honor. In America, being in debt is almost seen as being responsible. Pay your minimums, keep your score high, and congratulations. You're a model citizen, shackled but smiling. This is the economic genius of the system. It normalizes slavery with a smile. It tells you, everyone has debt, it's no big deal, while quietly siphoning off your life's energy. And here's the truth I've learned, sitting in coffee shops across the world, watching people live freer lives. Debt is not just dollars owed. Debt is time. Debt is energy. Debt is the sale of your future self at a discount today. Every interest payment is a little chunk of your tomorrow, signed away. That's why it feels so heavy, even if the numbers don't look catastrophic yet. You're not just paying money, you're renting out your freedom. And the real question isn't, how do I lower my APR? No, the real question is this. How much of your life are you willing to sell just to keep the treadmill running? If the trap is this deep, how do you escape without selling your soul? Sit with me for a second. You've probably heard it your whole life. Debt is normal. Everyone has it. It's just how America works, and sure, that's true, if you want to live like everyone else. Tired, anxious, chained to bills you don't even remember racking up. Normal is not freedom. It's captivity, dressed up in convenience. See, we've been sold a story that debt is harmless. A house mortgage, a car loan, a student loan, a few credit cards, pile it all up, and suddenly you've got more chains on you than a medieval serf. Only now, instead of working for the King's Land, you're working for Chase, Citi, American Express, modern serfdom, the illusion of ownership while you're really just paying tribute. And here's the poetic cruelty. Every swipe is a small mortgage on your freedom. You buy dinner today, but it's tomorrow's hours you've mortgaged. You buy that shiny toy on Amazon, and it's not just $200, it's 10 hours of your future life handed over in installments. Freedom is not in the purchase, it's in the refusal. People think financial freedom starts with earning more. If I just had a raise, if I just hit 6 figures, if I just built another side hustle. But I've seen millionaires shackled by debt. Big houses, flashy cars, private schools for their kids, and yet, no peace. Because freedom isn't about how much you make. It's about how little you owe. Let me say it straight. Financial freedom begins the moment you stop owing pieces of yourself to other people. The moment your paycheck is yours, not pre-sold to Visa and MasterCard. The moment you realize you don't need to keep up with neighbors or prove your worth with purchases. And here's the reframe I wish someone had whispered to me earlier in life. Debt is not just a financial burden. It is a philosophical prison. Every dollar you owe is a piece of control you've ceded. To live without debt isn't just about numbers, it's about reclaiming your sovereignty. To walk through the world owing no one, that's when you finally own yourself. Now, I'm not saying this path is easy. In a culture where swiping plastic is celebrated as maturity, choosing to break free feels rebellious. People will look at you funny when you drive the old car instead of financing a new one. They'll mock you when you say no to a vacation you can't afford. But I've lived long enough to know this. Ridicule is a small price for freedom. So next time you swipe, pause. Ask yourself, am I buying the thing or am I mortgaging my freedom? That's the reframe. That's where power begins. And once you see debt for what it is, not normal, not harmless, but a system of quiet control, this is where strategy comes in. Not hustle, not grinding harder. Strategy. The roadmap out of serfdom and into sovereignty. All right, philosophy is good. But philosophy without action is just coffee shop poetry. Let's get our hands dirty. If you're stuck in debt, here's the exact playbook I've seen turn people's lives around. It's not glamorous, it's not sexy, but it works if you're willing to face the discomfort. Step 1. Face the numbers. Most people avoid looking at their debt the way they avoid looking at old yearbook photos. Too painful. But denial is the most expensive hobby in America. Take out a notebook, or hell, open a boring Excel sheet, and write down every debt. The balance, the APR, the minimum payment. Line them up. That's your battlefield. Don't let the bank's fine print hide your enemy. You might already feel your stomach twist when you see 18%, 22%, 25% interest. Good. That discomfort is fuel. Most people never get free because they never fully look at the weight chained to their ankle. Step 2. Choose your weapon, snowball versus avalanche. There are two main strategies. The debt snowball. Pay off the smallest debt first, then roll that payment into the next one, and so on. It's about momentum and psychology. You see quick wins, you feel progress, and progress keeps you alive in the fight. The debt avalanche. Pay off the highest interest debt first, because mathematically, that's where you're bleeding the most. It's efficient. It saves the most money long term. Which one's better? The one you'll actually stick to. Personally, I've seen stubborn math nerds crush their debt with the avalanche. And I've seen emotional fighters, fueled by little victories, thrive on the snowball. Don't get hung up on right. Pick the system that matches your psychology. Let me give you an example. Say you've got 3 cards. Card A, $1,000 at 20% interest. Card B, $5,000 at 25% interest. Card C, $2,500 at 18% interest. With Avalanche, you kill Card B first because it's bleeding you the most. With Snowball, you knock out Card A first because it's smallest. Either way, you win as long as you commit. Step 3. Automate payments. Here's the trick. Remove yourself from the daily drama. Automation is the closest thing to discipline for people who hate discipline. Set up auto-pay on minimum balances so you never get hit with late fees. Then schedule extra payments toward your target debt, snowball or avalanche style. Make it automatic. Why? Because debt thrives on emotion. Banks profit when you forget, when you procrastinate, when you mean to pay more but don't. Automation kills the bank's favorite weapon, your inconsistency. Step 4. Cut lifestyle inflation. This one hurts, because lifestyle is how most people measure success. The new car, the better apartment, the dinners out. It feels like proof you're moving up. But lifestyle inflation is the silent assassin of freedom. Let's be real. No one cares if you're driving a 2010 Honda or a 2025 Tesla. They glance for 2 seconds at the stoplight and then go back to scrolling Instagram. Stop financing your self-esteem with depreciating metal and leather seats. Every dollar you don't spend on status buys is a soldier you recruit for your debt war. Cut the cable package, downgrade the phone plan, stop pretending every meal needs to look like a food blogger's post. This isn't forever, it's for freedom. Step 5. Side hustles with strategy. Now, I've seen this go wrong. Most people pick up a side hustle and then use the extra money to upgrade their lifestyle. They work 20 extra hours a week, only to end up with the same debt plus a new iPhone. That's madness. If you're going to hustle, treat it like a weapon. Funnel every extra dollar straight into debt destruction. Deliver pizzas, drive Uber, freelance, flip furniture. I don't care. But don't touch that money for lifestyle creep. Watch how fast $500 a month kills a balance when you aim it with precision. And this is a case study. From $50,000 debt to freedom in 4 years. Let me tell you about Mark. He was 29, carrying about $50,000 in debt across student loans and credit cards. He lived in denial for years, until one day he realized he was paying more in interest every month than in groceries. That was his breaking point. Mark started with the snowball, knocked out a $2,000 card in 4 months. He felt the momentum. He cut his gym membership and started running outside, sold his fancy truck, bought a used Honda, picked up weekend photography gigs, but funneled every penny into debt. 4 years later, debt-free. Not because he won the lottery, not because he built the next unicorn startup, but because he built a system and stuck to it. And when I met him years later, what struck me wasn't his lack of debt, it was his lack of fear. He wasn't looking over his shoulder anymore. That's the real win. Killing debt isn't just numbers, it's peace. And here's the thing. Once you kill debt, you stop paying interest to banks, and you start collecting interest on yourself. That's when the game flips. That's when money becomes your tool, not your master. You know, people like to think freedom comes the day you hit 7 figures, or when your 401k finally hits that mythical number. But I'll tell you this. Freedom doesn't begin when you make millions. It begins the moment you stop renting your future to credit card companies. Because every swipe isn't just a transaction, it's a contract. A promise that tomorrow you'll work a few more hours to pay for today's relief. And when you stack enough of those promises together, suddenly your calendar doesn't belong to you anymore. It belongs to the bank. That's not freedom. That's modern serfdom. Debt is the silent master. It doesn't yell. It doesn't kick down your door. It just sits quietly in the background, tightening the leash one fee, one interest payment, one minimum balance at a time. And the tragedy is, most people never even notice it, because it feels so normal. Everyone around them is chained too, so they mistake captivity for community. But here's the truth. The day you decide to break the chains, everything changes. Your money stops being a leash and starts being a key that unlocks choices, a key that buys back your time, your options, your dignity. So let me ask you, what's the highest interest rate you've ever paid? Share it below. I promise you're not alone. We've all made deals with the devil called debt, but naming it, that's the first crack in the wall. And if this conversation stirred something in you, stick around. Subscribe to The Bridge Within. Because this isn't about tips and tricks. It's not about hacks or quick fixes. This is about truths. The kind that school skipped, that society ignored. Truths about money, freedom, and meaning. Because the bridge we're crossing here, it's not from poor to rich. It's from chained to free, and I'd like you to walk it with me.